Welcome our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Thanks for joining us for The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the hour. Extreme weather conditions reported in South Africa causing damage to Sun City. Winter storms experienced across the United States as a result of snowstorms. 7 states are currently under a state of emergency. Plus, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to announce his resignation within days. Let's begin The World Today. The festive spirit for holidaymakers in Sun City, South Africa was cut short as severe storms caused significant damage to vehicles. This damage comes as the South African Weather Service issues a yellow level 4 warning for disruptive rains, forecasting flooding and potential property damage. The adverse weather conditions are expected to continue across several provinces, including Northwest Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal until Wednesday. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Samosa has more.
A trail of destruction has been left behind by heavy disruptive rainfall, causing extensive damage after fallen trees crushed multiple vehicles. Sun City Resort Management confirmed that efforts are underway to clear the affected areas, while investigations into the full extent of the damage continue. They assured that updates will be provided in due course, though no fatalities or injuries have been reported. Meanwhile, the South African Weather Services warns that rainfall distribution is expected to remain scattered and widespread across the central and eastern region of the country, with these conditions likely continuing until Wednesday. They have issued several warnings for heavy rainfall and thunderstorms in central areas, while other parts of the country are experiencing extreme heat. Forecaster Litlokhonolo Thobela explains.
We're expecting isolated to scattered chance of showers and thunder showers from today over the central and the eastern parts of the country, but it becomes widespread over the northern parts of the Northern Cape as well as the eastern half of the Eastern Cape province. With our warnings, we have severe thunderstorms which are expected over the central interior, covering the central and the eastern parts of the Northern Cape into parts of the southern areas of the Free State province as well as the Eastern Cape province. With these storms, you can expect heavy downpours that might lead to localized flooding, a possibility of hail, as well as a strong and damaging winds due to these severe thunderstorms by late afternoon. Now, for tomorrow, we're expecting disruptive rain to then be over the northeastern parts, expected to stretch to the eastern half of the Eastern Cape province.
Motorists are urged to remain cautious on the roads as holidaymakers return from various destinations. From Mpumalanga, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
We go from one end of the earth to another. Huge winter storm has brought heavy snow and freezing temperatures to the east coast of the United States. More than 1,300 flights have been cancelled this morning due to heavy snowfall, with at least 3 inches of snowfall accumulating at Washington, D.C.'s Reagan National Airport. Forecasters say the extreme weather is caused by a polar vortex, an area of cold weather to the central U.S. Let's take a look at the impact of this weather now on some parts of the United States. The winter storm brought snow, ice and freezing temperatures to a broad swathe of the U.S. On Sunday. Some 60 million people across more than a dozen states from Kansas to New Jersey have been under winter weather warnings and advisories. A storm was moving towards the mid-Atlantic, where Washington, D.C. is bracing and experiencing already snow and bitter cold. The same day, the U.S. Congress is set to meet and formally certify Republican Donald Trump's election as president. Kansas and parts of northwestern Missouri are enduring blizzard conditions, according to the National Weather Service. Roadways are blanketed in snow and ice. Officials are warning people to avoid travel at this time. Total snowfall of between 6 and 12 inches is expected from southern Ohio to Washington. Hundreds of schools have announced in advance they will not be opening today due to the storm, including public schools in Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Washington, and in Philadelphia. In northern Kentucky and southern West Virginia, freezing rain and sleet will produce hazardous ice accumulations, according to authorities. Governors in several states, including Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas, West Virginia, and Virginia, have declared states of emergency. A look at Indiana now. The first snowstorm of the year did bring heavy snow across the state, rendering its cities in a white landscape. This was video recorded yesterday, obtained from Reuters. It shows streets, houses, vehicles in Greensburg, Indiana, blanketed in thick snow. The weather authorities have issued a winter storm warning through 7 p.m. today up until 7 in the evening. Heavy mixed precipitation with total snow accumulations between 6 and 9 inches along, with glaze of ice are expected. And as we have been reporting, a winter storm is bringing the snow, is also bringing ice and freezing temperatures to a broad swathe of the U.S. Some 60 million people are under emergency watch as we speak. Between 6 and 12 inches of snow are expected in southern Ohio up until Washington. Hundreds of schools have been closed in advance. People being warned to stay indoors. Well, this is what the snow looks like in Washington today. The White House also blanketed in snow. There it is. An all-white scenario as we see there. Congress is expected to meet today, however, to formally certify Donald Trump as president-elect. It will be tasking to do this in freezing temperatures. The huge snowstorm experienced across the United States has been going on and will probably continue until the rest of the week, being cold temperatures and the coldest the country has seen in the decade. There are also freezing temperatures in parts of the UK, with authorities warning the snow could turn to a spell of freezing rain in the Midlands, northern England and in Wales. Inclement weather has impacted parts of the United States. In North Platte, Nebraska, the National Weather Service sent out an advisory on Saturday, warning that travel conditions will deteriorate due to ice and snow-covered roads. A lake effect snow or snow that occurs when cold air moves across the open waters of the Great Lakes impacted Syracuse, New York as well. A blizzard warning has been issued for portions of central, south central, southwest and west central Kansas due to severe weather. The National Weather Service has urged people to delay travel due to the treacherous and potentially life-threatening conditions. Apart from the thousands of flights that have been delayed and cancelled in and out of the United States on Sunday, Amtrak also now sweeping cancellations across its network. Major cities in the Midwest and eastern U.S. are in the path of the snow, with heavy accumulation expected in Washington, D.C. and Indianapolis, Indiana. Kansas City, Missouri, which is under a blizzard warning, could see more than 8 inches of snow. Heavy snowfall caused an avalanche in Utah that was captured in dramatic video released by the Utah Department of Transportation. Local media reports that up to 5 inches of snow per hour fell around Cottonwood Canyon area, sparking the avalanche and briefly stranding skiers. The UK is also experiencing heavy snow and worsening winter conditions. In Yorkshire on Sunday, residents woke up to heavy snow as authorities put weather warnings in place across the region. More than 12,000 homes across the north of England are without power amid freezing temperatures. The UK's National Meteorological Service reported that sleet, heavy snow and thawing could lead to flooding in places, and that up to 30 to 40 centimeters of snow is possible. The Meteorological Office also warned the snow could turn to a spell of freezing rain in the Midlands, northern England and Wales. The danger of rain droplets hitting the surface and instantly freezing, making road surfaces slippery and extremely dangerous. Heavy snowfall also forced the temporary closure of runways at Manchester Airport on Sunday morning. Runways were reopened several hours later after snowplows worked to clear the tarmac. But delays to departures and arrivals were still expected. Heavy snow also left a white sheet over some southern parts of Ireland, following heavy snowfall overnight and throughout the day. There was also plenty of snow across the other parts of the British Isles, with snow falling over parts of Scotland, England and Wales. Well, speaking of England and the UK, flooding hit the small market town of Edinburgh, around 45 kilometres south of London today, as Britain braced for more snow, rain and flooding. According to the Met Office, a warning had been in place for snow, ice and rain across much of the UK, while the Environment Agency says flooding is expected at over 150 locations due to rain and melting snow. A flood alert is still in force in Edinburgh, with the Environment Agency saying river levels are expected to rise further during the day. Flooding or heavy rain has delayed or cancelled dozens of trains. According to Britain's National Rail, some major roads in northern and central England are also closed due to snow or flooding, according to the National Highways. But earlier today, Manchester Airport temporarily closed its runways due to the heavy snow. Many Londoners have been braving the wet weather today as the country continues to brace for more snow, rain and flooding. Severe weather over the weekend had disrupted road and rail travel and forced airports in northern England to temporarily close their runways, delaying dozens of flights. The Met Office has a warning in place for snow, ice and rain across much of the UK, while the Environment Agency says flooding is expected at over 150 locations due to the rain and melting snow. But that didn't stop these Londoners from going to where they had to get to, did it? Major roads, however, in northern and central England have been closed due to snow or flooding.
I've borrowed a jacket because it's just horrible. I've just seen someone's umbrella turn inside out. Mortifying, couldn't be me. So yeah, it's just about being prepared, but it's horrible.
It is crazier than normal, I gotta be honest. I was to say I live Kent-wise, so this random snow on the weekend was quite nice for about the 30 seconds it was there. So that was great. And then it was raining and still been raining, so that's not been fun. But yeah, no, it's crazy weather. I'm not sure I'm a fan.
Kind of used to it really. I mean, in London it's not too bad. I visited a friend in the Midlands and it was a bit, more miserable, a bit windier, but it's always been this way in my opinion, so I think it's fine.
I just think the weather at the moment in the whole world is a bit crazy. It's just not expect, but it's January, so how can we not expect it to be a little bit sort of cold? But yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be so windy today. So yeah, a little bit of disruption. Trains obviously always impacted by the weather, so
Back to the United States now. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will today preside over the official certification in Congress of the result of November's presidential election, a contest that she lost to Donald Trump. The date also marks the 4th anniversary of a riot at the U.S. Capitol when Trump supporters tried to thwart the certification of Democratic President Joe Biden's election victory in 2020. And normally the occasion is a mere formality. Heavy security, however, is in place in Washington, D.C., and President Biden has vowed there will be no repeat of the violence on January 6, 2021, which led to several deaths. House Speaker Mike Johnson has vowed to go ahead with the certification at 1 p.m. Eastern, in spite of the weather, telling Fox News whether we're in a blizzard or not, we're going to be in that chamber making sure that this is done. As the current vice president, Kamala Harris is required by the U.S. Constitution to officially preside over the certification of the results after Trump beat her in the nationwide poll. As supporters of people who were charged in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack on Sunday held their nightly vigil outside a D.C. jail in an area they call Freedom Corner. Nicole Reffitt's husband, Guy Reffitt, an associate of the far-right three Percenters militia group, was sentenced to 7.25 years in prison for his role in storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, and for later threatening to harm his own children if they ratted him out to the FBI. He was sentenced or resentenced last month and was able to lower his original sentence by 7 months less. Nicole says her husband was taken from their home in East Texas after the Capitol riot, and she had not seen him again for 14 months after that. Refit's husband is currently in a facility in Springfield, Missouri, but she says he's one of the first to go to trial in front of a jury in Washington, D.C. She says she's really developed a community with other supporters outside the D.C. jail. The vigil has been going on for more than 800 days now. One supporter who was not able to make it to the vigil on Sunday is the mother of Ashley Babbitt, the U.S. Air Force veteran who was shot dead by police during the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Babbitt's mother has frequently attended the nightly vigils and is known as Mama Mickey. Just last month, President-elect Donald Trump said in an interview on NBC News that he would act on his first day in office to pardon rioters involved in the Capitol attack, further building expectations for a broad granting of clemency.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of healing that has to be done. My husband's been incarcerated since January 16th of 2021. And, they took him from our home that morning in a pre-dawn raid. And I didn't see him again for 14 months, and he was the primary breadwinner. It was a very traumatic situation and polarizing, being a Jan 6er in the beginning. And, we've really developed a community here. So I believe with all of us together going forward, we'll be able to not only heal, but enact a lot of change that we've seen that's happened inside of the Bureau of Prisons, the Department of Justice. Some things you see, you just can't unsee. And a lot of us have been really eye-opening this experience.
For 800 and some days, Mickey Whitehoff has been out in this corner with patriots to support January 6th because Ashley Babbitt was killed that day. So she stands out in this corner every night from 7 to 9, and at 9 o'clock we sing the national anthem. We get to talk to prisoners. The prisoners will call out here during the night, and we will talk to them, and they will pray, and they will tell us what's happening, and appreciate all the patriots that support.
That's what I have. Seems our departure will be...
Our Washington correspondent Maria Bird is on the ground safely in the studio in Washington. Maria, you're not experiencing this terrible weather outside, thankfully. So we'll expect some warm answers from you. But those people out there on January 5 holding a vigil ahead of today, January 6th, the 4th anniversary of the attack on the Capitol building, they really feel that, their loved ones who are in prison are patriots. How so?
You're correct. This has been, as you stated in the story previously, that they've been out there almost 800 days or more. This is from 2021 when this occurred, and these individuals really believe that their loved ones are patriots. Now, the question is, for these individuals who are out there and they are asking for their loved ones to be released, what role did they play in the January 6th attack? And I think that's the piece, as we talk about getting close to some of these trial dates, that's the piece that will be revealed. Because as many have stated before, as we have seen previously, the democracy was looked to potentially be turned over on January 6th. And I think that's the greatest concern for many lawmakers and also for many Americans as well. And so what role they played in the potential overturning of the democracy, and then obviously what the intentions were if they did gain the control and power of the congressional building. So I think that's really where the concern comes. Obviously, you heard a woman talk about some of the personal impacts incarceration that I've had, potentially losing income for individuals' homes. But another piece that's very clear is that there's questions around the way inmates are treated. And I think this is going to bring additional light to what's going on in our prison systems, and really being able to understand that more clearly. So I think we're in a very interesting moment of history as we look to inaugurate the former President Trump back into office, and those individuals who attacked congressional building, the U.S. Senate, those individuals were doing that because they felt as though the election at that time was stolen, and they were most likely strong supporters of the former president. So this is going to be a very interesting moment in history as we begin to move forward over the next few weeks.
Indeed, Maria. I mean, these 2 weeks, this week, so much is happening this week. Today alone, Vice President Kamala Harris has to certify Donald Trump as winner of the November 5 election. And it's also the anniversary of the attack on the Capitol Hill. It's a pretty unique day. And then you also have the weather that's acting up. That's been acting up all weekend. But once again, let's just keep our focus a bit more on the Capitol Hill attacks. President-elect Donald Trump says it's one of the first orders of business for him when he becomes president after the inauguration. The release of those rioters who were arrested and who were imprisoned. How would he justify, pardoning them at this time, given that, even the courts know what exactly these people did? There's enough evidence to prove, that people were hurt, people died as a result of the riots. And the fact that the whole nation itself was thrown into turmoil. I mean, even those of us watching from here in Africa wondered what exactly was going on in the United States.
Well, the question is whether or not it'll create additional division within the American people. We know that he potentially can pardon all of the individuals. Whether or not he will pardon all individuals that have been arrested and that are being charged, I think we don't know that at this time. But if he does, where will the morale of the country be? How will the country as a whole feel about the potential pardoning or the pardoning of these individuals? As we heard earlier, these are considered patriots by their loved ones and potentially patriots by the president, the incoming president. So that, I think, is where we'll begin to see whether or not the country will be healed and brought together, or whether or not it'll create additional division and potential challenge over the next few years.
We already know it's going to bring division because it did bring division at the time that the riots were going on. But let's move on to the Vice President Kamala Harris, who will be certifying Donald Trump today. We really haven't heard much from the Vice President since the election. She's been really, really quiet. So this will be one of those very few moments we see her, front and center for the country. What do you think that today would be like for her, having to do this for Donald Trump? The fact that Donald Trump himself, at least a little over more than 4 years ago, refused to certify Joe Biden's election, refused to certify that he won the election, and wanted the elections upturned thanks to his supporters.
Well, as you mentioned, the concerns around division, right? And we know that there is a requirement, and what we've heard the Democratic Party talk about is a need for unification and healing. And despite the fact that President Biden and Vice President Harris are exiting the White House, I think this is a moment where they're hoping to bring some sort of unity. I think they're hoping that this can be a time and period where Democrats begin to figure out how to work with Republicans and specifically work with the incoming administration. And having this full circle moment, I think, for Democrats to show that they will be present, they will be there and support of the certification, despite what happened 4 years ago, I think is a time that is going to be monumental for the country, and it will really require that all parties understand the need for a collaboration and partnership to really move the country forward for 2025 and beyond.
To the weather now, Maria, because we cannot help but talk about it. We saw pictures of the White House covered in snow. We know that Washington is also receiving some of that snowstorm already predicted by the National Weather Service. They said it's a polar vortex. The last time I heard about this was some years ago. So how badly does America have it now?
Well, Washington has been declared a snow emergency. And so, as you said, how will they make it to be able to certify by 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? I think it is a race of time to be able to get there. There are emergency vehicles, obviously, that have been put in place, and I'm sure they have been making sure that those streets that are from the vice president's residence and the White House, and for those key members of Congress that will need to be there, have been shoveled out, and that they have vehicles that will bring them there. But we are looking at right now anywhere between 6 and 8 inches, depending on where you are in the Washington region, looking up to potentially a foot of snow. So needless to say, I don't know if we're going to be able to get out of here in the next 24 hours. People from their homes, things will probably start reopening really Wednesday. Tuesday will probably still be slowly trying to dig out of this, as you mentioned, this kind of this eclipse of snow that has occurred. And the additional factor is that the winds are very strong, which makes visibility a challenge as well. And the temperatures are a bit extreme. And so you're going to see icing toward the later on in the evening hours.
I remember the last time this happened in the U.S., there was a fine for those who even ventured outside. Are there any such restrictions for people apart from just warnings against going outside in these conditions? I expect the people must have prepared for this. You, for example, I hope you do have lots of blankets and lots of supplies indoors to keep you and your family safe at this time. But are there restrictions against going outside, going from point A to point B, apart from the lawmakers who have to be in Congress today?
Yes, well, typically when there's been identified a snow emergency, there are specific restrictions around driving, parking. There have been no fines set as of yet. Typically that occurs when you find people not abiding by the snow emergency protocols. And then the mayor will then enact various fines, or the local governor of that region will enact certain fines to ensure so that they're able to clear the roads, clear the streets, and make things safe for individuals. And also trying to preserve the emergency personnel, because oftentimes when people venture out, they get stuck, and then that requires emergency personnel to assist them and takes away from some of the larger work that has to be done to clear the roads.
If it's any encouragement for you, Maria, I'm sending you lots of sun from Lagos. It is boiling hot here. I can tell you temperatures are really high in this part of the world. Thanks again for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Welcome back to The World Today. We have news just in. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced his resignation, saying he will leave office as soon as the ruling Liberal Party chooses a new leader. He says Canada deserves a real choice at the next election, and announcing that Parliament will be prolonged until March 24. Trudeau has been under growing pressure from within his party and elsewhere to step down. Ex-Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland and former central bank banker Mark Carney are among the potential successors. Justin Trudeau resigned just a few minutes ago at a press conference in Ottawa. He says he will stay on as Prime Minister until a new Liberal Party is chosen. According to him, this country deserves a real choice at the next election, announcing that Parliament will be prorogued. I'd earlier said prolonged, but it's prorogued until March 24. He was answering questions from reporters earlier today. He says Parliament has been entirely seized by obstruction as well as a total lack of productivity over the past few months, and it's time for a reset and for the temperatures to come down in Canadian politics. Trudeau this is his third time as Prime Minister. He says it's time for a fresh start in Parliament in order for the country to navigate complex times domestically and internationally. Prorogation will take until March. There will be confidence votes in March, which will allow Parliament to weigh in on the next steps for the Canadian government. That's according to Justin Trudeau, adding that this process is in keeping with the workings of a democracy. Justin Trudeau has underscored a number of times that he has been a fighter. Anyone following Canadian politics will see that in the last decade, he's been in his boxing gear in the ring, especially earlier in his days as Prime Minister. He also talks about the Finance Minister's recent resignations. He said he hoped that his longtime ally, Chrystia Freeland, will continue as Finance Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, even though she's chosen otherwise. Trudeau shares his regret of premiership. He's been answering questions, as we mentioned earlier. He says he wants Canadians to be able to choose their second and third choices in elections, and it would have helped reduce polarization in society and ensure common ground between political parties. We'll be back to Europe for other stories, but a quick check-in on South Korea, where ousted president, we should say, Yoon Suk-yeol, has been under an arrest warrant with the National Office of Investigation still trying to arrest him. They said the document sent by the State Anti-Corruption Agency regarding the transfer of the execution of the arrest warrant for the former president contains legal flaws, making it difficult for the police to comply with. The police believe the document sent by the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials requesting the execution of the arrest warrant for impeached Yoon is legally flawed, and the execution of the warrant should take place within the framework of the Joint Investigation Unit, according to a member of the Public Administration and Security Committee of South Korea's National Assembly, Yoon Kong-yong, after a visit to the NOI. The Joint Investigation Unit consists of a CIO, the NOI, and the Defense Ministry Investigation Headquarters. So South Korea's anti-graft investigators have requested police assistance for the arrest of the former president Yoon Suk-yeol. But the country is still in a political turmoil as we speak. Let's invite now Dr. Kichiro Komatsu, a principal, Komatsu Research and Advisory, KRA, in the United Kingdom. He joins us now via Zoom. Dr. Komatsu, thank you for joining us on the program.
Hello, Keiichiro Komatsu is here.
Yes.
And,
and how do you feel learning of these developments politically in South Korea? First of all, there was a president who wasn't too popular with the people, and then him announcing that martial law that got everybody upset in South Korea, and now they're talking about arresting him.
Yeah, what I feel is that it's a mistake. The issue declaration of martial law on the 3rd of December last year, but it's not very clear legally which is correct at the moment. And looking at the popularity among the general population, the support of the president is dramatically increasing at the moment. If you look at the questionnaire census result, what we can say is that in November and early December, the support rate of the president was just between 24% to 30, around 24 to 25% against the supporting rate of the opposition. The Democratic Party was around 41 to 42%. But now, after the end of last month, means 30th and 31st of December, the result is in the support of the presidential side, means President Yoon, it's up to 35 to 6%, while the support of the opposition is a little bit going down to 41 to 40. So it's unpredictable what will happen in the near future, whether the presidential side will be getting more support or the opposition would keep its excess amount of supporters on a popular level. So although it's very clear that the turmoil is very dangerous situation at the moment in South Korea. But what could be the outcome is not very clear at the moment.
So the nation rose up against his pronouncement of martial law. South Korea, the whole country, revolted against the president. And yet you do have supporters who want him to stay on as president. They're having difficulties arresting him. How so?
Yeah, first of all, in most of the Western media, it's saying a joint team of investigators which have tried to arrest them. But as you mentioned, CIO, Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, that is a very unique organization to South Korea. That is not the police authorities and or prosecutors authorities, but it's for their own to investigate like the president's case. And in that case, they can investigate it, but for requesting the court to issue the arrest warrant, they don't have that power, but they did it. And also under the legal system of South Korea, the Seoul Central District Court should be in charge of the trial in case he was arrested. However, it's requested to Western District Court, Seoul Western District Court instead of Seoul Central District Court. And in the Seoul Western District Court, it's more of the judges are known to be on the side of the opposition. So it's a little bit political. And if we are strictly speaking about the legal aspect, then it's wrong. So on the one hand, what the president issued, the declaration of martial law is was mistake. But at the same time, the following legal procedures of the opposition is also significantly wrong. Not only what I mentioned about it, but there are several different problems there arisen by the opposition side. And therefore, as the population started to know more about this process, the supporters of the president started to increase. So we don't know, as outsiders, of what will happen inside South Korea. It's a decision should be made by the South Korean people. And very frankly speaking, I don't know where this dispute is going on.
So it seems like a president who was unpopular with the people eventually turned out to be popular because the institutions that are supposed to keep the government in check obviously failed in their duties. They're going about this, pursuing this not following due process, but are following with their own personal vendettas, against the president. And now he has become popular. So is it possible for Yoon Suk-yeol to return to office as president?
Yeah, probably it's a little bit mistake to say that the popularity of the president is increasing, but the people are deeply confused. The opposition leader is also scheduled to be in the trial in the coming May for the his own corruption possibility, probability of corruption. So it's very difficult for the people to decide who they have to trust, whether the opposition or the ruling party. And in that sense, those people increasingly supporting the presidential side doesn't mean they are in support of the president himself, but some people who started to doubt about the intention of the opposition, they are going to switching from the support of the opposition to the support of the president. So what will happen after this, because the arrest is now postponed, and also the parliament declined that for previous decision of insurrection, possible insurrection. And in that case, why the parliament should review of the impeachment of the president in the first place? and that is not yet done. So in the first place, it's for blaming the possible insurrection. But now it's declined by the parliament itself. But the arrest warrant is still going on. So it's inconsistent in legal sense. That is a problem for causing a lot of confusion for the popular people, popular level.
Are you concerned that North Korea could take advantage of the political crisis in South Korea? One of the reasons that President Yoon announced the martial law, he says, was because of some North Korean elements, he said, were trying to interfere in the politics of South Korea. Do you feel that this is a perfect opportunity for North Korea to take advantage of what's going on?
I don't think so, because North Koreans are now involved in the Ukrainian war front, and there is no excess power for them to look at in the conflict, possible conflict with the South in the future. And rather, what happened, it was predictable to begin with when this President Yoon was elected in 2022. If you look at this map, it's very clear. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, if you move it a bit more to your right, I guess we can see properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you see the map of this and this, it's very clear that blue part and the red part is divided with this green and yellow. It's okay. What I mean is that there was a historical background of three divisions in the Korean Peninsula in ancient time. And even now, the inherited division exists in South Korea between East and West. And he is in support. When he was elected last time in 2022, he was elected on the west side. And on the east side, a lot of opposition appeared there. So, and that is a very, particularity of the South Korean politics. All the time when some president is elected, it's divided very clearly between East and West. And this time it's in support by the Western part. And nonetheless, the majority of the parliament at the moment is quite on the side of opposition. Among the total 300 seats in the parliament, 175 seats are on the opposition and 108 are on the ruling party. And with this situation, the parliament in support of the Democratic Party and the president coming from the People Party, that is quite a different situation. So the president's position is from the beginning very weak. So the opposition could rise this way. That is very clear. And North Korea, I don't think that is a lot of imposing a lot of influence to South Korea yet.
Indeed. And I guess it's one of the things the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been trying to forestall with his visit to South Korea. Dr. Kichiro Komatsu, thank you so much for speaking with us on The World Today.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says people spreading lies and misinformation online are not interested in supporting those affected and are only interested in themselves. He was responding to a question about Elon Musk's recent attacks on his handling of child rape cases, although he did not criticize Musk individually. Musk, a close ally of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, last week backed calls for a national inquiry into the handling of cases of rape by men of Pakistani heritage of underage girls by the government's prosecution service, which Starmer previously ran. A 2014 inquiry found at least 1,400 children were subjected to sexual exploitation in Rotterdam, Northern England, between 1997 and 2013.
On the question of Elon Musk, look, I think most people are more interested in what's going to happen to the NHS, frankly, than what's happening on Twitter. Those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible, they're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves. Those who are cheerleading Tommy Robinson, not interested in justice. They're supporting a man who went to prison for nearly collapsing a grooming case, a gang grooming case. These are people who are trying to get some kind of vicarious thrill from street violence that people like Tommy Robinson promote. And those attacking Jess Phillips, who I'm proud to call a colleague and a friend, not protecting victims. Jess Phillips has done 1,000 times more than they've even dreamt about when it comes to protecting victims of sexual abuse throughout her entire career. I'm prepared to call out this for what it is. We've seen this playbook many times, whipping up of intimidation and threats of violence, hoping that the media will amplify it. Now, Jess Phillips does not need me or anybody else to speak on her behalf. But when the poison of the far right leads to serious threats to Jess Phillips and others, then in my book, a line has been crossed.
Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has gone on trial today after being charged with receiving millions of euros in illegal financing from Libya's late strongman Muammar Gaddafi for his successful 2007 presidential bid. Sarkozy has always denied the allegations or the accusations. The Conservative former leader faces charges of concealment of embezzlement of public funds, passive corruption, illegal campaign financing, and criminal conspiracy with a view to committing a crime, according to the prosecutor's office. The trial, which began as 1:30 p.m. today, will run over 3 months and risks further undermining public confidence in the French political class. Investigators allege he made a corrupt pact with the Libyan government at an issue which is a murky affair alleged to have involved Libyan spies, a convicted terrorist, arms dealers, and allegations Gaddafi provided Sarkozy with millions of euros shipped to Paris in suitcases. Sarkozy's lawyer says the case against the former president is a fabrication and there'd been no Libyan financing of the campaign. If found guilty, he could face up to 10 years in prison and 375,000 euros in fines. Authorities say the death toll from the Magdeburg Christmas market terror attack in Germany has risen to 6. A 52-year-old died in hospital 2 weeks after the car plowed into the packed market in Magdeburg. So far, 6 people have died, including a 9-year-old boy and 5 women aged 45 to 75 when a man drove a car into a Christmas market on December 20. Nearly 300 people were injured in the terror act.
The greatest thing about being this age and being in this time is having
India.
Yep, pictures from the Golden Globes Sunday evening. Historical drama Shogun took the spotlights at the awards, grabbing the top prize for Best Television Drama. UK-based Netflix series Baby Reindeer, centered around the true story of a turbulent relationship between a female stalker and her comedian victim, also fared well at the awards ceremony in Los Angeles, taking the prize for Best Limited Series. And here what some of the cast and crew had to say.
Colin Farrell, the Penguin.
Late the cut, which is good news for us.
No one to thank on this one. I did.
And the Golden Globe goes to Jeremy Allen White.
And the Golden Nothing about this show has ever been expected. Truly, it was made on the backs of thousands of fearless yeses that we received over the years from our East Meets West cast and crew, our extraordinary cast standing right here, to our writers and our directors and our partners at Disney Television, FX, and Hulu. All of you guys said yes so many times over the years to a show that on paper you should, quite frankly, have never said yes to.
People were kind of crying out for something that kind of spoke to the kind of painful inconsistencies of being human. I think for a while now there's been this kind of belief in television that stories that are too dark and complicated won't sell and no one will watch them. So I hope that Baby Reindeer has done away with that theory, because I think right now, when the world's in the state that it's in and people are really struggling, we need stories that speak to the complicated and difficult nature of our times.
It's impossible to give a performance to our full potential. Thank you, everyone else. I'm going to thank you later.
And that'll be all the news on The World Today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.